So I want to also get right into the stuff I'm interested in with you. I know you're kind of doing the rounds, but I wanted to ask you a little bit about what it was like before.
Okay.
So when I first became cognizant of you, you had already left A Voice for Men.
Yeah.
So the first question I'm really curious about is, what were your views while you were with them, and what led you to those views?
Oh goodness. Where to even begin with this? It all started basically, I guess we'll start at Elevator Gate. Do you know about Elevator Gate?
Yes. Now, I was not there during Elevator Gate, so I'm a latecomer to all of this.
Okay.
So when I first heard about Elevator Gate, I was like, what the heck is this? And I went and I found the original Elevator Gate video by the woman.
Mm.
And it seemed so innocuous and so like no big whoop.
Well,
I was at this conference, and it was late at night, and I'm in the elevator, and this guy starts asking me, do I want to come up for coffee? And I'm just, let me give you a tip, guys. Don't do that at 4 a.m. in an elevator. And I was like, what? That started this?
that was the catalyst. That was back in, I think it was 2010 or 2011. I can't remember exactly, but we're going back now.
Yeah.
And it was at a conference, and Rebecca Watson was the person, and she said that she had been approached in an elevator, and that it, I guess, offended her or freaked her out or something, because this person propositioned her in the elevator, I guess. Would you like to come up to my place for coffee? It was kind of weird. And so she made a video after that saying, guys, just don't do that. And there were two problems with that. The first problem was there was no proof that this had ever happened, and a lot of people were saying she just made it up. And to this date, there is no one who's ever come out and said, yeah, I was the guy in the elevator, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people are like, yeah, that was just bullshit. It was made up.
Well, okay. All right. Okay, fine. That's first problem.
Yeah, that was the first problem with that. And then the second
problem... Hard to see how that would have caused such an uproar, but I'm really interested. I wasn't embedded in it like you were. So what was the second issue?
And the second issue was, as you said, right, the video that she made after saying, guys, don't do that. A lot of men were quite upset that she basically painted all men with a broad brush, saying, that this is what men do. Don't proposition women. How dare you? So this just started sort of this whole schism between atheism and feminism, and atheist feminists, I guess. I don't know, whatever. That was the springboard for what turned into Atheism Plus, and what fueled a lot of stuff from Richard Carrier and the free thought blogs. And I mean, it grew from that into this humongous, sort of pushback, I guess, from the non-feminist atheist community.
Okay, so where were you in all of this?
At the time, I was not a feminist, and I still don't consider myself a feminist. I consider myself more egalitarian humanist, I guess. And so I wasn't on the feminist side, and I was siding with people like Thunderfoot at the time, Noel Plum. These were the people that were around back then. We're the old school, right?
Right.
We were there when it went down. So we were all sort of pushing back against this, hey, men, don't do this, and all the feminist rhetoric that was coming out of that side, the whole Richard Carrier, you're either with us or against us kind of crap. And so we started making videos, and we started doing pushback. And during that, I ended up making a couple of videos about men's issues. I was making videos at the time, sort of pushing back, right? And what I ended up doing was, I was making fun of people like Rebecca Watson and stuff like that. But then what I ended up doing was I ended up making videos about actual men's issues to sort of push back against the feminist sort of, what about the women's stuff,
Right.
So I was like, oh, well, what about the men's? And I started making videos about actual issues like homelessness for men and circumcision, which has always been one of the issues I've always talked about and always, said that we need to do away with. Circumcision is, horrible, get rid of it. And so I always advocate against circumcision. And so I made a couple of videos about that stuff, and it got picked up by, I don't know if you know this person, but John the Other.
I've heard of John the Other, but I don't know who that is.
Okay.
I know the name, but I'm not placing a face or any videos or anything.
John the Other at the time was working for A Voice for Men, or working. None of us were being paid, but anyways, volunteering for A Voice for Men. And he said, look, I like the sound of your videos and this and that, get in contact with me. And at the time, I didn't know much about A Voice for Men. I just knew that they were like quite a big voice in the men's rights circles. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, cool. Someone picked up on my videos. They liked my stuff. So I contacted him and I started talking to him. And then I got in contact with Paul Elam. And all of a sudden I ended up being part of AVFM. They made me an editor and then a senior editor and then the Canadian news editor. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was just crazy. They gave me all these, sort of positions within AVFM really quickly. And looking back at it now, I'm like, yeah, I see what you were doing. You were trying to put a woman out there in the front saying, look, we're not sexist, we're not misogynist, we have a woman out there. At the time, I was just like, oh yay, look at me,
Absolutely. I can understand how something like that would happen.
Yeah.
So when you were there then, I guess you want to say you were volunteering, but you got a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then did you put out print pieces? Or one of the things that's terrible about what happened with you is that I can't research you. I can't go back and look through your history because you disappeared. So,
yeah, they've scrubbed all my pieces off of AVFM. I did a piece where I went downtown and actually while we were coming home from, I had a men's rights meetup that I had started in Montreal. And when we were coming home one night, there were a bunch of homeless guys sitting in the metro station. And I decided, hey, I'm going to go over and start talking to them, see what their stories are and this and that. And
talk about how rough it is for men who are homeless and how everybody who's homeless is male and
see what they're like, how they ended up on the streets and stuff. So I did a piece on that and I took some pictures and they were really nice guys. One of them was schizophrenic and unemployed, obviously living on the streets. The other one had lost his whole family and his job and everything, so he was on the streets. And another one was alcoholic. So I was getting all their stories and so I did pieces like that. And at the time, it's sort of, you're not seeing everything. You're sort of living in this little whirlwind, where you're like, you feel important, you feel special, and everybody's sort of praising you. Oh, you did a great job and you did this and you did that. So you're not really paying attention to the bigger picture. And once you're removed from it, then you kind of go, yeah, there was that and there was this and I should have picked up on it. But at the time I didn't. And so I saw AVFM as sort of the place where I could do a lot of the activism that I was used to doing. I used to be a social worker. And so I saw it as a great place to help people, which was stupid of me to think. But at the time, being the idyllic person that I am, I was like, oh, yay, maybe I can do some good here, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
I've always believed in the goodness of people and, good intentions and stuff. And yeah.
I can understand how, when you talk about your beginnings, how, you would be shaped into focusing on those sorts of issues. Were you doing anti-feminism, anti-sjw videos in addition?
Well, yeah, I was doing, and I was pushing back at the time against that whole atheism plus thing.
Right. So were you starting in the atheist community?
I had started in the atheist community before all this. I joined the atheist online community, I guess, back in 2008, I guess.
Wow, you really were one of the beginners.
Yeah, so I've been around for quite a long time. I've taken breaks here and there because I do have kids and, a life. So I do take breaks. But yeah, I've been around for forever. The only other people that I know that have been around that long are people like Aaron Raw, Thunderfoot, Noel Plum. There's only a handful of us that are still around from back then.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I did like anti-atheism plus more than anything, not specifically anti-feminist, but pushing back against the new atheism that they were trying to create over on that side.
Yeah.
And then when I was at AVFM, I started noticing that they weren't interested in really helping anyone. They were interested in helping Paul Elam make money, all his fundraisers and this and that, and nothing was ever being done. And then they tried courting the MGTOWs. And for people who don't know what a MGTOW is, it's men going their own way. And they're a special breed of crazy, a lot of them. Most of them. Not all. I will say hashtag not all. I have met some MRAs who are sane, who prefer to call themselves actually bachelors, which is what they used to call themselves, but now it's turned into some sort of little cult where, you know, I'm an MRA or whatever. Not an MRA, sorry, a MGTOW.
MGTOW, yeah.
So yeah, MGTOWs are a special breed of crazy, for the most part. And the problem with MGTOW is a lot of them, especially online, are very misogynistic. Like, I don't like to use the term misogynist unless it really fits, and it fits there. Like, these are the kind of guys that blame everything on women. Women are toxic. Women need to go kill themselves. Women need to stay in the kitchen. Women are useless. They're only good for fucking and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
They're, for the most part, the most disgusting people I've ever had the displeasure to encounter online. And so I told Paul, I said, you know, you need to distance yourself from these people, not try to build bridges with them, because you're just going to hurt the movement as a whole if you embrace these assholes. Like, you need to get rid of the garbage, not bring it in. And so I started, because there was a policy within AVFM. You had to follow AVFM's guidelines when you were writing on AVFM. And it's understandable, right? It's their site, so you have to abide by whatever rules they set for that site. But there was an understanding that whatever you did on your own channel or your own blog or whatever, that was your opinion and it had nothing to do with AVFM. And so I started making anti-MGTOW videos. Calling out these assholes and saying, look, the MRM cannot survive if you embrace this kind of toxic shit and blah, blah, blah. And that was when everything went to hell for me, because at the same time, I was also trying to start a men's shelter. And Paul and John just did not like the fact that I was pissing off the MGTOWs.
Right.
Because MGTOWs have a lot of money and MGTOWs donate. So don't piss off the people that are paying you, right? So they did a Skype call with me, basically berating me for it. And they basically said, you need to stop doing this. And I said, fuck you. I'm not going to stop doing this. This is on my own time. This is on my own channel. You know, how dare you try to dictate to me what to do? And this ended up in the whole big thing. And they basically were like, get the fuck out of AVFM. And I was like, fine, toodaloo, bye-bye. And when that happened, basically the men's shelter that myself and my husband and a friend of ours was trying to get started was harpooned by Paul Elam and Dean Esme, claiming that I had stolen money and that I was a fraud and that I was a thief based on absolutely zero fucking evidence. But of course, everyone believed them instead of me. And so, yeah, the whole thing that we tried to start went you know.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So then you were sort of out on your own. And then what did you do with your YouTube channel after that?
After that, because this was carrying on actually into about 2012 to 2013, and I was pregnant at the time, and so I just was like, screw this shit, and I closed my YouTube channel because I didn't have the energy at the time, nor did I care. I was having, you know, a lot of problems just around at that point. This was my, you know, 5th pregnancy. I was basically bedridden. So I was like, screw this. I have better things to do. And I left YouTube for a while. I left all of social media for a while.
So when you closed it, when you say you closed down your YouTube channel, did you literally close it down?
Yeah.
I don't know. So what's the motivation behind that? A lot of people do that, and I'm wondering why you don't just leave it up and just quit, you know, adding to it.
Well, for me, because of the false accusations by AVFM, I was getting so much hate at the time. And, you know, being pregnant and everything and dealing with a whole bunch of personal stuff, I didn't want to deal with the hate. I mean, you should have seen the hate. It was constant. Every day, hundreds and hundreds of comments, fuck you, go kill yourself, you're a stupid bitch, blah, 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 this and that and the other. Like, who needs that? So I was just like, screw it. And I closed down my channel, and I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't even think I was coming back at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have my baby and I'm just going to do my thing and that's it. But I'm an opinionated person. So, staying away for too long was not something I could do. So I started making blog posts, and then I decided, oh, fuck this. I'll start another YouTube channel, because I like to rant and rave online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm opinionated. What do you want? So I started making videos again. A lot of them were against AVFM and MRAs and stuff like that. And then I'm trying to remember. I mean, there's so many things that have gone on in the past, God knows how many years. I think I was watching some Thunderfoot videos. Yes, it's all your fault, Thunderfoot. And there was something about Anita Sarkeesian, and I was like, what is this? And because I hadn't been sort of in the loop for a couple of months, which is forever on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Or online. So I had to sort of catch up as to what was going on. And there was this whole Gamergate thing going on. And I was like, what the hell is this Gamergate crap?
I wanted to ask you about Gamergate. So when I decided I was going to look into this, because what was happening to my atheism, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came on, it was after all of it, even after Gamergate and everything. And so I was trying to backtrack and trace what is going on.
Oh my God, Gamergate.
I traced it back, I thought, to Gamergate and this influx of the Gamergaters into the online atheism community. And I wondered if you had some insights about that, and it sounds like you might.
Well, okay, I was never fully involved in Gamergate. I found it, look, I'm 40 years old, and I found it quite stupid, to be honest. I mean, maybe it's because I'm older or whatever, and I'm not a gamer. I'll play silly little games every once in a while, but I'm not a gamer. And so I found the whole thing really pathetic. I looked into what it was about, and it started with Zoe Quinn. And I'm sure you're familiar with that, Zoe Quinn, and a messy breakup with her ex, and he wrote a long diatribe online, and people were like, "Oh my God, she's sleeping with game journalists for favorable reviews, and this is corruption in gaming journalism, and what about my ethics and all this crap?" And I was just sitting there, sort of trying to catch up on what was going on, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You're complaining about ethics in gaming journalism? Like, how stupid are you?"
Were they thinking that the magazines were not propaganda magazines?
Yeah, like, I mean, there have always been biases and people who are unethical in journalism since the day you had the first frickin' newspaper. I mean, this is nothing new, but it seems like all these millennials or whoever was part of Gamergate, it was like they had just woken up or something, gone, oh, there's people who aren't being ethical in game journalism. I'm like, you people are stupid. There's unethical people everywhere. This has been a thing since for God knows how long. And what, you people are just realizing this now? How stupid are you? So I never really got into the whole Gamergate thing. I mocked it a lot. I was like, my ethics. Like, I just thought it was really stupid.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was not.
So when you came back, you looked a little bit into the Gamergate thing, but try to trace what started you making, I guess, did you start with anti-feminism videos, or did you do sort of anti-sjw videos for a while? Or?
I did anti-MRA videos for a while, anti-MGTOW.
I wonder if that was cathartic.
It pretty much was. And then I started doing anti-feminist videos. It was probably like, I don't remember exactly, but it was probably sort of a gradual thing. I mean, like I said, this was years ago, right? So I probably made like a video and people were like, oh, it was really good or something like that. And then I probably was like, oh, people like this, so I'll just make another one in sort of this style. And I guess it just snowballed from there. And because I never considered myself a feminist, I sort of saw feminism as not the enemy, but the thing to mock, I guess, the thing to poke fun at the time. Mm-hmm. So I started making videos about, my rape culture and my 1 in 5 and, stuff like this. And just the stupid videos that you see now from anti-feminists was basically the same kind of crap I was churning out. You get someone's video, you do a response video, you make fun of them, you laugh at them and you get views and hits and people are like, oh, you're awesome, for not making any real argument, but whatever. So I started doing those types of videos, and I guess it was because I was quite miffed, I guess you could say, at the 1 in 5 studies. That was my big thing at the time, was the campus rape epidemic and the 1 in 5 thing. Because if you did the research, it wasn't 1 in 5. Even the authors of the study were like, yeah, no, you can't extrapolate like our work to all campuses all across the US.
Right.
So I was sort of fighting back against that narrative that it's 1 in 5. I'm like, are you kidding me? If it was 1 in 5, why would anyone send their daughters to college? It's too risky. So I was fighting back against that. And the funny thing is when you're involved in these communities, like anti-feminist communities, MRA communities, and stuff like that, you end up in an echo chamber, and people reinforce your bad behavior. You're mean to someone in a video, and they love it. They'll praise you for it. So you're not really noticing the harm you're doing to other people. You're just basking in your own glory, so to speak. And so you end up getting reinforced to do this bad behavior by other pieces of shit. And it can be hard to notice what's happening if you don't have other people there to sort of go, okay, you're crossing a line, or you're turning into someone I don't know anymore, or, this isn't you, this person that's making these mean, spiteful videos. Luckily, I have someone like that. I have my husband. Mm-hmm. And, he told me, he's like, you're turning into someone I didn't marry. I married someone who's good and kind and, a nice person. And now you're turning into someone who's mean and spiteful and poking fun at people for, he goes, I understand a lot of what they're saying is not based in fact and this and that. He's like, but, you're being really cruel and you're being really mean. And I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. But then I got an email from one of the people I did a video on. She was 16, and I had done a video mocking her. She talked about feminism and this and that. And she wrote
was it one of these sort of bright, friendly, hi, I'm new, and here's why feminism matters to me.
Yeah.
Kind of video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
And I tore her video apart. And she wrote me an email saying, that because of my video, she had to close her channel, because she got dogpiled and she got a lot of hate. And she wrote me a very heartfelt email. And I talk about this all the time. I talked about this with Christy too on the stream that I did with Christy, because I think people need to realize that the people you're mocking, they're people. Mm-hmm. They have feelings, and it's easy to forget because it's a person on a computer screen and you're not really sort of giving a shit. But when she wrote me that email, she explained how she had depression and how she had anxiety, and how when I had done the video I did, it made everything worse, and how she had, broken down and cried and this and that. And she was just asking if I could take the video down. And I felt like a piece of shit. I did. And that was...
Because then you start imagining what their real life is like and how now they have to go to school.
Yeah. And how...
What's it going to be like when they step into the school? And
how I am now a part of someone feeling like a piece of shit. That's not me. That is not who I am. And I turned into something that it really went against everything I am. I got sucked into this community that is toxic. So I wrote her back and I apologized profusely, took down the video, and I stopped doing those kind of videos. I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to hurt people for the lulls, for the hits, for pat on the back. Oh, look at you. You go. You got that feminist really good, Yeah, I made her cry. I made her cry. That's awesome.
Yeah, right. Let me ask you before you go on. Let's talk about the 1 in 5 thing.
Sure.
So you knew, even when you were making those videos, that even the studies themselves were not supporting a 1 in 5 kind of claim.
Right.
And so there was a real issue there that you could have, I don't know, done a more highbrow type video on.
Right.
Discussing it, going through the paper, something like that.
Right.
But instead you did this other format
Yeah, which
What do you think caused you to do the other format? Do you remember even considering doing one where the actual issue was discussed or anything like that?
I did some.
Okay.
I had a variety of different videos on my channel. I did blog posts where I really got into like the research. Like I've done one on circumcision, and my God, the citations I have on that blog post are crazy, and it's just chock full of studies and research and this and that. And I also did one, I think it was Jessica Valenti did an article, and I debunked her article by going into the rape studies and stuff like that. So I read those articles out in videos.
Okay.
But my main focus was not the research and not that, because that's not what sells, right? Yeah. That's not where the views are. That's not where the money is. And at the time, yeah, I was making good money doing this shit. So, you know, you pander for the dollars. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, this is what people want. This is the crap they want, so I'll give it to them. Right. Because no one wants to sit there and listen to sort of like an academic video. Who the hell wants to hear that, right? They want to hear you poning a feminist. So, you know, God, how sad is that?
This is something that bothers me a lot.
I know it.
I don't quite know what to make of that.
Don't even try. I've sat there going, God, people are so stupid, and they just want drivel, and they don't want to learn anything, and it's like, oh my God, it's so frustrating. But you know, at the time, I was like, fuck it, I'll just do what the people want.
Sure. So you were making money, and you were getting positive responses, and I can see how you could kind of get swept up in that.
Oh yeah, you can totally get swept up in it. But like I said, luckily, I had people to pull me back, and that email from that woman, that was quite eye-opening.
Right. So is that around the time that you started the perspectives thing?
Yeah, that was actually that's
when I first saw you. You know how you sit and you start watching Thunderfoot, and there's something in the suggested videos, and you click on that, and then you click on that, and you click on this, and and then I saw you, and you had this invitation to the other side. So after I saw your invitation video, I clicked on a couple of your other videos, and they were these ponage type videos.
Yeah.
I thought, this is very interesting. Here's this person.
I remember seeing you comment on Micaiah's video, I think it was. The one where Micaiah reached across, I think it was reaching across the aisle or something like that. And I had made a video similar to that around the same time. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Micaiah's reaching out. I'm sort of wanting to reach out because I want to get out of this sort of bubble I'm living in and sort of get to know the other side and see the other perspectives and stuff like this. And so that was when
is he the one that kind of pushed you, or were you already starting the perspectives?
I hadn't started perspectives. What happened was when I saw Micaiah's video, and it was almost like serendipitous, right? Because I was at that point too where I was like, no, I want to start to understand where these people are coming from on the other side. And then I saw Micaiah's video, and I was like, oh, perfect, you know?
Okay, yeah. And
so we decided to start the perspective series. And that's when I said to you, I was like, oh yeah, you come, you know, do some with us. And it's
I remember I think I did one with you, or maybe I missed the one I was going to do with you, and then I tried to come in on I think you had a PUI there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And it turned out to be the partner of Micaiah, and that was quite surprising for me.
Yeah, that was Harvey. That was Micaiah's husband. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, come on, how am I supposed to challenge this guy's partners right here? But I do remember.
I know. Yeah, and so that was my turning point. That was pretty much the time when I started switching from anti-feminism to what I consider now to be an egalitarian, humanistic sort of approach to things. I still have a lot of qualms with a lot of issues that feminists bring up. You know, I don't always agree on everything, but we don't have to agree. What I think is important is to try to understand where these opinions, where these beliefs come from, and sort of try to understand one another and come to a sort of a mutual, like, you know, okay, I can see your point and I can see your point, and we don't have to rip each other's heads off for it. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's funny, the narrative, the narrative online, if you watch anti-feminist content most of the time, the narrative is that all feminists and all SJWs are these crazy people that they're all out to get you. They all hate men. They all hate white people. They all hate. It's this narrative, and they're using the craziest of the crazies and the loudest people to prove their point. But the problem is that that is not representative of most of feminism. You go out your door and you know, go talk to someone on the street, they'll probably say, yeah, I'm a feminist. You know, most people don't give it two thoughts, and they're like, yeah, sure, I'm a feminist. I'm for equality. I'm for women's rights, whatever. And they're not the, you know, put men in camps, crazy Julie Bindel people. And they're not the, you know, kill all white people, crazy people. This is a very small contingent of the feminist movement, or SJ. I don't even know why people say SJW is like a pejorative. Who the hell goes around calling themselves an SJW?
No, it is a pejorative.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, this idea that all feminists are out to get you and they're horrible people and they're going to, you know, like lock you up or chop off your balls or I don't know what the hell. And it's not reality. And most of the time, most feminists, if you sit down and you talk to them, they're not unreasonable. You know, we may not share the exact same beliefs, but they're not unreasonable. I have yet to come across a feminist where I've said, yeah, look, I think that circumcision is an important issue and that, you know, we should outlaw it so it's illegal, you know, because cutting a piece of a little infant boy off is wrong. I have yet to hear a feminist tell me, yeah, fuck you, I think it's perfectly fine. Yeah, I have yet to hear a feminist tell me that. You know, people say, yeah, but there are feminists. I'm sure there are crazy people out there, but I haven't met one. You know, the feminists that I know are like, yeah, I agree. I think it's horrible. I think, you know, yes, more voices are needed on this. I think that, you know, people can come together on this issue. There are always going to be crazy people in every movement, batshit insane people. It's the same with the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, there are crazy people in the Black Lives Matter movement. There are Black racists in the Black Lives Matter movement. Does that mean that everyone in Black Lives Matter is like that? No, it doesn't. It just means that you're focusing on the crazy people and ignoring the normal people for your narrative, whatever the hell it is. And yeah, I'm not for that. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, you can call out the crazy people, but don't think that that's the majority of the movement, because it's not. And this is a narrative that these people are selling you.
It's very interesting, this narrative talk. You know, you look at the atheist community and how it's splitting, and the horseshoe seems to me to be the tips of the horseshoes are coming together and coming full circle. I wonder what you think about that. It seems as though very often the free speech, people who call themselves free speech advocates, will turn around and start up petitions for shutting down programs and things like that. It seems to come full circle in a way.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing with these free speech people. And I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about Sargon's petition.
Yeah, I remember Sargon tried to start a petition to stop.
It was to suspend social justice courses in colleges and universities until we could figure out what's going on. It sounds a lot like Trump. Stop immigration so we can figure out what's going on. Idiots. But yeah, it's this idea that people like that have, that they're pro free speech. You can say whatever you want. You can, you know, say the most racist, heinous shit because free speech. What they're for is not free speech. What they're for is their speech, because they are more than happy to make a petition like Sargon did, where you're advocating taking away speech. And he's like, no, it was just temporary. I don't care what you want to call it. You were advocating taking away a certain type of speech that you don't like. And this is across the board with anti-feminists who like to pontificate upon free speech. They don't want free speech. They hate when they get criticized. They don't like it when anyone makes rebuttal videos. They don't like when articles are written about them that aren't favorable. They don't want free speech. They want their speech. What they want is to be able to say some of the most disgusting stuff that you can possibly say without anyone coming out and going, hey, that was racist, or hey, that was really disgusting what you just said. They don't want that. The minute you say, you know, hey, look, what you said was kind of racist, they lose their shit. They're like, what, I'm a racist? And they start losing their shit. And it's like, yeah, what you said was racist. And I'm sorry I'm pointing that out. I'm sorry it hurts your feelings. And the funny thing is I've been watching the videos where they're now propping up people like Richard Spencer and so on, because they think that people like Richard Spencer are pro-free speech. No, he's not pro-free speech. You can't possibly be a white supremacist, a white nationalist, an ethno-nationalist, and be for free speech. It logically doesn't follow. You cannot be both, because in order to have your ideology work, it means that you have to get rid of other people who aren't white. You have to remove them from the conversation. That's not free speech at all. You know, so like people like, again, like Sargon, who's, you know, oh, that's the free speech side. No, it's not. That's the side that has no problem blowing up boats full of refugees, as one of them said. Millennial Woes was like, you know, I don't see what other option we have other than blowing up boats and having limbs flying all over the place and this and that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. You know, these aren't free speech people. These are pro my speech and fuck everyone else's speech. That's what that is. So this whole issue of free speech is it's just a cover for them. It's virtue signaling. That's what it is. It's virtue signaling. There, I said it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I just want to end by asking you, sort of, what are you going to do from now on? Because I would imagine that you want to be careful not to go from one extreme to the other. But at the same time, I guess you want to make money. So, I mean, how are you going to? You're going to start doing ponage videos against the other side now? And well, if so, why?
What I'm doing is I'm not, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure in which direction I'm going with my channel, which is why I don't upload videos very often, because I'm sort of like, is this really important? And sometimes I'll find a story or whatever, and I'll get too busy with the kids, or I'll get too busy like taking care of the house or my work or whatever. And 2 days later, and it's like, that story didn't matter anymore. I really don't care. So it's kind of an apathy, I guess. I'm like, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I'll make mockery videos. Like I did a video, it's on my channel, Rational Ruler. And that that came about because one night, Creationist Cat, myself, Spinosaurus Kin, and a couple other people, we were joking around saying how like a lot of these anti-feminist people have been popping, you know, up on YouTube with the most ridiculous avatars and the most ridiculous names. Like there's literally someone out there who has their channel. It's called The Critical Cracker, and it's a Ritz cracker with a monocle and a top hat.
And it's not done in irony?
No, it's not. That's the sad part. And so we started making up these silly little avatars, right? And I think Creationist Cat had the skeptical angel food cake, and someone made like the something tardigrade. Anyways, we were making up all these stupid little avatars, and I made the Rational Ruler. It was just a joke. It's a ruler with the deal with it glasses and a little hat and stuff. And we were just joking around. And then a couple of days later, I was like, you know what? I should do something with this Rational Ruler thing I just made. Maybe I'll do like little parody videos parodying these nitwits on the other side. And so I did one video, and people loved it. They were like, this is so funny. It almost seems real, but you know, because it's on your channel, we know it's parody. And so I might do a couple more of those because they're kind of fun and they're lighthearted. And it's not, I don't pick on anyone in particular. Mm-hmm. It's a parody of anti-feminists as a whole, not, you know, a certain person here or a certain person there. And I think it's perfectly fine to poke fun, you know, just for comedy's sake, when you're not singling a certain person out. I will still
be a good place to draw the line. You can sort of make the parody sort of about phenomenon that you were noticing.
Exactly.
That might be a way where you could make some money and also do ponage without injury.
Well, I'm not really interested in the money aspect. I mean, if they took away all my monetization tomorrow, I'd still make videos. Like for me, the money was nice when I was making it, but it's because I started YouTube so early on, like we're talking like 10 years ago. There was no monetization back then anyways. So, I mean, it was nice while it lasted, but for me, it's not a big deal. I'll still make videos regardless. You know, if I feel like I want to say something, then I'll say it. And I don't care if it makes money or not. And I will
be in a good position, especially with the YouTube apocalypse now.
Well, that's it. Oh my God. But yeah, I really don't care if it's monetized or not. I mean, it's nice if you can make like $10 here and there. It pays for a couple of coffees, you know, whatever. It'll never pay the mortgage and it'll never pay, you know, enough to live off of. And to people who can do that, my hat's off to you. Fabulous, whatever. That's great. That's not something I'm striving for. I just want to put my thoughts and opinions out there whenever I feel like it. And I will go after people like Sargon because the size of his audience is relevant. Like he's got a large enough audience where he can do damage with disinformation. And so I feel that, you know, if I counter that directly to Sargon, you know, if I call him an idiot or whatever, well, that's just the price you pay for having such a huge audience. It's one thing to go after a small channel, you know, with a couple, 100, you know, whatever subs. But when it's someone like Sargon or the Amazing Atheist or Thunderfoot or PewDiePie or whoever, these people can hold their own. These are what I would consider like e-celebs. That's the price you pay. You say something dumb, you're going to get criticized for it. And so I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is going after tiny channels, which I will not do on either side. I won't do it for feminists and I won't do it for anti-feminists. If they have a tiny channel, I will not. No. Because at the end of the day, really, what's their reach? What's their damage to anyone? Nothing. They don't have a loud enough voice to really warrant anyone having a fit about it. You know, now when you're looking at someone like Sargon, who's got what, like 600,000 subscribers? I think he's like closing in on 1 million or something, whatever. Yeah, he's got a large audience. And when he peddles bullshit, I think he should be called out on it. And I think anyone, even on the feminist side, like if someone's peddling bullshit, people should critique it. People should come out and say something because we can't let bad ideas dominate the discussion. We shouldn't. It's like creationism, right? I mean, if you see a bad argument, you should counter it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, people might want to call me a hypocrite, whatever. I'm a human being. We're all hypocritical. Like, whatever, I don't care. So yeah, I mean, I will speak out on things that I think are wrong, and I'm not really picking a side. I'm sort of thick bullshit that I've been involved in for years that I know so much about. I know what goes on the back end of these channels. I know what happens in private chats. I know what these people are disgusting. And it's about time that someone says something about it. I mean, now you're seeing more people are starting to speak up, like Spinosaurus Kin and Creationist Cat, and so, which is good because for a while I felt like, you know, I'm the only one and I'm sort of drifting in this lonely sea, you know, and so now some other people are starting to do it, which is nice. And I also go, I told you so. Fucking told you so. No one listened. I think, you know, if you find bullshit, regardless of what side it's on, you should point it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't be too much of a dick about it. But you know, whatever. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you talking with me. Oh, I love it. It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be watching what direction you go, watching you try to balance. It's not easy. It really isn't easy for anyone, you know, who's listening to this. It's really not easy. A lot of what I do is a lot of, you know, self-reflection and a lot of introspection and a lot of, okay, if I say this, then does that lead to me being hypocritical over here? And if I'm hypocritical over here, then what do I do about that? How can I discuss this and still retain my principles and still retain my ethics? And it's not easy. You know, and a lot of times when you really sit down to think about it, you end up going, yeah, the position I had before doesn't really make sense. And so now I have to reevaluate what it is I had come to a conclusion on, because the conclusion doesn't fit anymore. And that's what it means to be a skeptic, you know, where you sit down for maybe hours on end, sometimes days even, going, I have this position, does it fit, does it work, what's the logical conclusion, how, you know, and do a little research. And that's what you do. You don't just blah, blah, all over the internet. You're not going to always get it right. You know, we all make mistakes. And there's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I fucked up. I made a mistake and I'm really sorry about it. That's what I'm doing now. You know, I've come out and said, yeah, I was a disgusting person and I'm sorry. I apologized to Christy Winters. I apologized to Steve Shives. I apologized to that girl that I did that video on. You know, it's not a bad thing to say, yeah, look, I fucked up and I did something that I shouldn't have done. I think people will respect you more instead of when you double down and I didn't do anything, I'm not wrong. No, just admit where you're wrong and learn from it and then grow and move on. You know, I don't think anyone would hold that against anyone. At least I hope they wouldn't.
Indeed.
So thank you for having me on, Helena. It was fun.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting to hear sort of everything you've been through. I didn't know that you've been around for so long.
Oh yeah, I'm an old fart here, so.
All right. So I'm assuming that at some point we'll talk again.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you, Helena.